What's up, nation? Welcome to the first ever edition of the WiseTake Nation podcast. That's right, the WiseTake Nation podcast. We are still very much a DFS community, and we are still very much in the DFS realm, but we will be providing some shorter DFS content for YouTube while we grind away at wisetake.com for our subscribers. This show is a little bit different. As you can see, I'm started off with the same old crew. I got the OGs with me for episode 1. Paulie's dropping 7s on the camera. I'm joined, of course, first off, by the true OG, Mr. Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie also from wisetake.com. For those of you that may not know, Paulie D, appreciate you joining me. Episode 1 had to be the OG show for the first of anything. Has to be an OG show. Paulie D, what's happening, bro?
What's happening, baby? I'm just here for the CK heel turn, and whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm down.
That's it. It's you know, the heel turn is real right now. The heel turn is real. It's real and reckless. We are also joined by the not one, not the two, but the triple OG, Patio Joe. You can find him on Twitter at Patio Joe. Ref, Joey, my man, I know it's a little weird. Like, you always do these shows with me. It's a little weird not talking only about DFS. We'll talk about DFS on this show, gambling. Like it's just a little bit more, you know, about the nation. But I know it's a little strange, and I'm a little afraid because, like, on a podcast like this, you bring on a guy like Patio Joe, you're kind of unleashing him a little bit. When it's DFS, like, he's relegated to talk about DFS. But when you kind of open up to other topics, like I have no idea what I'm unleashing, but we gonna find out. Joey, my man, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. I survived the weekend with all 3 children, Friday night and Saturday afternoon. So we're a little bit later start because when I was putting my son to bed tonight, I just passed out on the bed. We would have been here earlier, but I was there. My wife comes in, CK's calling on Skype. I'm like, oh, okay. And I looked, I'm like, wow, it's like half an hour I was out, you know. So those kids, they run me down, man.
Oh, dude, I don't know. You know, I mean, I'm happy for you. You made it, bro. You made it, right? We didn't know if
I know
if you would. We didn't know how.
Mrs. Patio Joe.
Yeah,
Mrs. Patio Joe for the win.
Mrs. Patio Joe for the win. I love it.
Coming through in the clutch.
Yes, Clutchington. So the first thing I wanted to hear your guys' opinion on. We were going to talk about the MLB trade deadline, and we still are. But obviously today, one of my teams made a pretty interesting move in acquiring Marcus Stroman. And before we even like, it's just so strange. So he comes to my Mets, and then like Joey lets me know the last thing Stroman tweeted was his I think it's his New Jersey number, and the dude just says 7. How amazing is that? You know what I mean? Like how just incredible is that? Paulie, I'm gonna start with you, bro. Talk to me a little bit about Marcus Stroman. Gone to the Mets. Interesting move. The Mets, we all kind of thought they were going to be selling. I think even Brody kind of hinted towards that. Maybe they still are. They're not done yet. But they did acquire Marcus Stroman for 2 of their top 5 prospects. So I believe Paulie said neither of them are actually in the top 100 in the MLB. Talk to me about Stroman going to the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, I think Marcus Stroman's really good. He's got below 3 ERA in the American League East. And I know ERA is not like a very respected statistic, but it's a measure of what he's done this season. He's a big time ground ball guy. Like, he'll be great in that park. Just was kind of confused about the move. Like, are the Mets buying? Are they trying to win this year? That'd be awesome. I come from a family of Mets fans, like my dad, my brother, so they were all excited about this and, you know, asking me who Marcus Stroman was, if he was good.
I love that.
I think he's really good. I really do. And he's from New York, so I think he's got the mental, like, building to pitch in New York. And if they're buying, I think he's a great addition. And they were kind of struggling with pitching outside of, like, you know, DeGrom, maybe Thor, maybe Wheeler when he was injured, when he wasn't injured. But the rest of the team, you know, especially the bullpen, it was hurting. So, you know, they needed some pitching. It could be good, but it could also be part of like a double switch where they turn around and trade him and Thor to another team like Minnesota. So we'll find out in the next few days.
Oh, Stroman would be absolutely pissed if that was the case, because he was already kind of like upset that they even traded him in the beginning. He just strikes me as a guy that doesn't like it. Joe, what are some of your thoughts on the deal, man? Do you think the Mets are making the right move? Do you think they're being foolish? What do you think?
Well, I think for Stroman, it's great to just strictly get out of the AL East. You're pitching against Boston and New York. Oh man, would they play them 19 times a year? So just to get out of the East and get into a ballpark that's better than Toronto, and you got the National League, so you're going to be throwing against pitchers. It's going to help him. Like Paulie said, he's a ground ball pitcher. It's going to help the Mets. It's kind of weird because you still think that they're going to sell one of the pitchers between Wheeler or Syndergaard. So it's not like they're like loading up. And I've even heard that they might even, if the right trade came across for Edwin Diaz, they would deal him too. So it's kind of weird. I feel like they're kind of like buyers and sellers at the same time. Like they're kind of like still sort of lukewarm in it for the next week or two. If they were to have maybe to win like maybe 4 or 5 in a row this week and some other teams ahead of them were to lose, maybe then they would really think that they're in it. But if not, they'll maybe preparing for 2020.
It's exactly what you said. I think that's the most confusing part of it. Like some Met fans are super excited, and some of them think, okay, they're going after it this year, which maybe they are. But at the same time, like you said, you're still hearing trade rumors about Diaz potentially. You're still hearing trade rumors about Syndergaard. Wheeler's value apparently isn't as strong as they thought it was because they haven't really talked about dealing him. I think Syndergaard is somebody that they he's younger. They have more upside with him, but yet he's the one that apparently has more value. And so, yeah.
Contract.
Right. No, of course.
It's the contract. Free agent, and Thor is locked up for 2 more years.
Right.
At a good price.
So, like, it's not just, like, true buyers that are looking at Thor. It's also teams that are interested in, like, trying to rebuild and be competitive over the next couple of years. Whereas Wheeler can really only go to a team that's competitive this year now. But, yeah, I mean, I had told you guys before the show, somebody had asked me what would I think before the Stroman trade actually went down. There was a rumor that Syndergaard was going to get traded to the Padres, and it was this whole 3-way thing, and then Stroman would come to the Mets. And I said I didn't want to give up Syndergaard for Stroman. I agree with you, Paulie, that I think Stroman's good, but I didn't want to give up Syndergaard for him. And part of that is just because me being a loyal fan. I just like my team, and I personally think Syndergaard, he's younger, has more upside. He's home, he made a home here. He's comfortable. He's kind of taken on given the Mets somewhat of an identity, at least with his personality. And like then when the trade went down, and I realized like Syndergaard was not part of it, like it got a little interesting. And like Joe brings up a good point, getting him out of the AL East, which is always super competitive. You got to see the Red Sox and Yankees every single time. And coming to the NL East where still like somewhat, you still got the Braves, you got some offenses that are good, but you also like you lose the DH most of your games. That's a huge plus, right? You're gonna start seeing pitchers on the regular now. That's awesome. You're going to Citi Field, which is it got to be a better pitcher friendly park than even Toronto. So I agree, it's a good situation for him. He's also from New York, right?
Yeah, and Stroman has like very good experience in the playoffs where he's done really well. Right. Like in 2015 and 16 when the Blue Jays made the playoffs, he balled out. Which, if you plan on winning anytime soon, that's huge.
Oh, dude, he doesn't he seem like when you look at like his size, he's like what 5'8", something like that. He's like tiny, right? Like not just small for a pitcher, but just short in general. And you could easily see a guy like him with his personality becoming like the face of this franchise. He's from New York. It's the Mets. They're like the underdog New York team. You know what I mean? Like they're not as good, like not good enough team. And you got this pitcher that's 5'8". And just comes in saucing. I think he's going to be a pretty popular if he sticks around, but we'll have to see what happens. Speaking of the trade deadline, the Indians kind of took off. I don't think they're going to be in the market to really sell. I think they're competitive personally, but they were considering trading Trevor Bauer, and I'm sure a lot of different teams are interested. Ironically, today, I don't know if it was like a week ago or something like that, but a week ago from today. But Mike Francesa from The Fan, New York radio, had said that like Bauer shouldn't go. The Yankees shouldn't get Bauer because he's like a head case. And like he responded to him on Twitter and said like, you don't even know me because this is whatever. And then like a week or two later, Bauer just has this epic meltdown today on the mound where my dude took the ball and threw it over the center field wall from the pitcher's mound, which I will say is very impressive. Joey, I'm gonna start off with you, man. Like first of all, I'm just gonna ask. Like, I want to hear your thoughts on the meltdown. Like, you saw it, right?
My thoughts is, man, as a pitcher, it's like I'm really torn, to be honest with you. Like, part of me is like, you were taught since you are, young, when you're pitching, you don't show your emotions out there. But like, that guy is that's definitely showing some emotion. Like, he's pissed off that he had a terrible, terrible outing. He didn't want to be taken out, so he just let his emotions get the worst of him, and he just threw the ball. And if you're a contending team in some ways, I want that. That's a guy that cares. He cares about every single little thing that he does. Like, Trevor Bauer is like, what he does to get ready for a game, like, he cares. So obviously he just kind of lost it a little bit. I like that. It's fiery. I would definitely sit him down and be like, look, this can't happen. Maybe, I'd still trade for him.
Bro,
personally.
my favorite is the reaction of Francona when he comes out there to get him, and he says like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, he just says, like, that was just the best. Paul, you saw it, right?
Yeah. So first of all, like, Mercado like missed a fly ball that was like an easy one that like started like, I think, like lit the fuse, and then like they had another error in the infield, and like, I think it was like frustration, and like those errors got him fucking pissed, and like, a good game turned into a bad one, and like, obviously throwing it over center field's insane, but like, we allow guys like that strike out to snap a bat over their head. Like, how much different is this? Like, I don't know. I like it too. Like, I'm like, Yankees should trade for this guy because like he cares and like he wants to win. So I'm like more in Bauer's camp than I ever was after this, to be honest.
Hey, I'm with you, man. He shows some personality aside from like, we know he's like a science freak, like a physics major, and like he's not naturally a good pitcher. He worked for this because he studied like physics and spin rates and all these different things to understand, made up his own pitches. Like, he's a genius when it comes to that scientific stuff. But like, I mean, it's ironic to me that like Francesa just says Yankees shouldn't get him. He's a head case. He can barely handle things out in Cleveland. He can handle shit in New York. And then like, not even, he responds to him, so he knows that was the thing, and then just kind of has this. I'm with you. Like, I think like I like the fire that he's showing. And like, come on, he got BABIP from hell. He had that was just awful. The whole inning was a disaster. You mentioned Mercado losing the ball in the sun. He made an error with bases loaded. Easy. He was trying to flip the ball to the catcher. He made an error. On top of that, they scored it. Right. On top of that, a lot of these errors weren't actually really errors in the book. They were scored as like a ground rule double from Mercado, and that should have been caught, right? Like, he got blinded by the sun. He ducked. He couldn't see the ball. He literally ducked. And if you're a pitcher and you're watching your center fielder duck when the ball is coming like 2 feet away from them, like, that is not a good feeling for anyone, right? Like, that's just like, yo. So like, I he's a young player too, so he's got to pay his dues and all that stuff. So you're looking at Bowers, looking at him like, yo, bro, no, like, you know what I'm saying? So I agree. It was very frustrating. It was just crazy because like, you do kind of wonder. That was against Kansas City. In Kansas City, you do kind of wonder how he would react under like constant scrutiny. He's been the talk of a lot of trade conversations. Like, he has like to have one thing like start. Every pitcher has starts like that where things just don't go right. And like, he's had them before too. So what was it about this one that caused him to finally snap? Do you think it was the pressure of all the trade rumors that he's been a part of? Like, you know what I'm saying? It seemed extra. He's had starts like this before, especially this season. He has been great this season. Consistently.
Yeah, maybe he thought this was like his final audition, and he maybe really wants out of Cleveland. Like, that's the confusing part, is like, why was he being shopped? Like, he still has a year on his contract. The Indians are in the race, and it's like weird that his name was out there. And like, talking about the trade deadline, like me being a Yankees fan and like hoping that we bolster our team and pitching's really where we need to do it. Like, they aren't. And there's nobody. We know we're not going to trade with the Mets. So like, Thor's out of the question, probably Wheeler. Like, there's nobody else out there. Like, Bauer's probably the best option available now that Stroman's off the list. Like, he's the guy I want. It's crazy, but there's nobody else out there in terms of like a pitcher that I think will really help your team. Like, I think Mad Bum's off the market now because San Francisco went on that crazy tear. Like, I don't know why he was being shopped, but I hope that like the Indians are like, all right, let's get rid of him because of this, and the Yankees can get him because I think he could help the team, and I think sometimes people do respond well to these kind of things.
Yeah,
you never know.
I completely agree. Joe, do you think? What is your your gut feeling? Obviously, we don't know, but like, do you think this made the Indians more likely to want to get rid of him? And like, granted, forget about the other teams wanting him. That's a better question. Do you think other teams look at this and want this? I know, we like it, but we're just we're just dropping sevens and doing dirty to the neighbors and all that good stuff. So it's like we're not in that position. Do you think other teams look at this like the Yankees? That's a prestige, right? Like they make motherfuckers shave. You know what I'm saying? Like they make you shave, cut your hair. Like what do you think?
Well, doesn't Mr. Bauer have a great history against the Astros? Right? Doesn't he own the Astros? I'm pretty sure that he has a really good.
He's been very good against a lot of people.
So my point is that there are 3 games. They're leading the wild card right now, so he would essentially start the wild card game for Cleveland against whoever they're playing. So for them to deal him, I think he's trying to get out of there. If I was the Dodgers, that's who I would go after too. I'm with Paulie. He's the best option. He's went to UCLA. To have him in the World Series against either the Houston or the Yankees or Minnesota or whoever's there would be a huge lift, especially if the Dodgers can't get that relief arm that they desperately need. Because I'll tell you this right now, you put it on the tape right now, CK, at 9:41 Pacific time on July 28th, the Dodgers will not win the World Series if they don't improve their bullpen. They will not win the World Series at all. I don't care how many games they win. There's no way with that bullpen that they're going to win the World Series. So they're going to have to do something. And if they get a starter, then they can maybe push like Maeda to the bullpen, and then that's another bullpen arm or something like that, because he was good in the playoffs a year or two ago. So if that's the route they go, but there's so many like arms that they could go after. The Dodgers, they could go after Giles from Toronto. They got Yates from San Diego. There's the guy, like I guess the guy that everybody wants is Felipe Vasquez from Pittsburgh, but the price is just astronomical. So which the Dodgers would have to give up at least like the number 1 catching prospect in baseball, Keeper Ruiz, which I'm fine with that. I just don't want them to give up. The only untouchable guy in the Dodgers system right now is a guy by the name of Gavin Lux. Like Yahoo did an article on this guy Lux. They're saying right now he's the best hitter in baseball, period, right now. Nobody's hitting the ball better right now in any level. So I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, so the Dodgers, like we're talking about the trade, the Dodgers, that's what they need is bullpen help. So if they can't get a bullpen arm, they got to go and get a starter out there because, somebody else, all these other teams are going to get better too.
Well, like just going back to Bauer briefly, if you look at Cleveland, they have improved, but if you look at their actual starting rotation, like they kind of been like crushed this year. I mean, they lost Carlos Carrasco, with the terrible fucking thing that happened to him. And Kluber's been, I don't even know what the deal is with him. Is he even coming back this year?
He just throwing Kluber. He just started rehabbing back and throwing this week.
It's tough. You have this you can actually get something for a guy like Bauer because like Paulie said, I and Joe both said there are teams that do need a guy like him, regardless if he's a head case or not. Going back to the Dodgers, Joe, I bet you the Mets would pay you guys to take Familia.
Oh yeah,
hey, hook it up, bro. They send you some money.
I'd go after. I try to see what Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, listen, he was amazing in Seattle. It's kind of incredible how bad he's been. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd get that guy.
Yeah. Well,
been bad.
He's been bad. There's.
He wouldn't be a closer though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So could make it different.
Yeah, we tried that with Familia. That didn't really work with him. But.
His confidence could just be destroyed though. Edwin Diaz. I don't know. I'd go for Kirby Yates in San Diego. That kid's a fucking baller.
Yeah. No, that dude is good. But that's gonna Padres gonna want something for that, man. You know how much money they get to Machado? Like they're gonna be looking for. They're gonna go on like a rip-off spree. That's why I'm so afraid that the Mets may trade Syndergaard to him because they're gonna try their best to rip everybody off to recoup some of that money they made with Machado, man. Like they're gonna try. They're gonna try.
They gotta recoup.
Yeah, they got they got a lot making up to do. You know what I mean?
He's stealing from them. Eric Hosmer's stealing checks on the daily.
On the daily, man. He's like a just the true American story. You know, capitalism at its finest. Just like his value for some reason was high to one team, and he was like, "I'm not gonna fight it. Let's go." You know.
Why would you?
It's the American way.
Believe it or not, TK, on this show, the Dodgers just made a trade.
Did they? Really?
As we speak.
Did they really?
Believe it or not, yes, a small trade. They traded for an infielder on the Mariners, Christopher Negron, for minor league infielder Daniel Castro.
Wow, way to break fucking huge news, Joey.
Well, it is the trade deadline, so it could be coming at any moment right now, right? So, we're just talking about them. I probably wouldn't have said it if we weren't talking about the trade deadline at this point. Like, we were talking about football. I wouldn't say, hey, guys, Dodgers got Negron.
It would be, isn't it funny, like, the differences between NBA trade deadline and MLB? Like, MLB is just kind of like, oh, they got this guy. In the NBA, it's usually something big. There's only 5 players on the court at once, so it's probably something big if it's in the NBA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Let's wait until the 31st right now. I mean, the last few hours of the trade deadline at MLB is pretty exciting.
It can be, but NBA, it's like it's a whole different, like, you know what it is? More people care. I think that's what it is. Like, honestly, like, there's just more buzz around it. You know what I mean? Like Woj, it's like everybody's watching him. And the same thing in football. Everybody's watching, like, Adam Schefter. I can never say his Schefter? Scheffner?
Yeah.
I can never say his name right.
Yeah,
Schefter.
Yeah.
Schefter.
Speaking of Schefter and the NFL, though, Joe, it is time, bro. Preseason is upon us, right? August 1st. That's like in 4 or 5 days or some shit like that. That's coming up, man.
Yeah. Hall of Fame game. Matt Ryan and is playing somebody.
It is. I know you guys are. I am so excited for the NFL, and like a lot of stuff has happened, right? Like the Cardinals dumped Rosen. They got Kyler Murray. They got a new coach. We got my Jets, Mr. Le'Veon Bell, digging it. The Giants, Paulie, just completely went off the walls, and they lost Shepard. I have no idea who Daniel Jones is going to throw to. I'm just starting off with our teams because there's so much that happened in the NFL that I need a place to start. Joe, you got the Melvin Gordon drama in San Diego. I mean, not San Diego, excuse me, L.A. There's a lot going on, Joey. Talk to me about some of the some of the off-season moves you're the most excited about to see,
Well, I mean, it's everybody's like interested to see how Cleveland's going to do with that new offense and stuff like that, and everybody's all hyping the Browns and stuff. I'm like a wait and see kind of guy with them. I think they're going to be good, so we'll see. I think there's some great pieces in their offense. Want to see how Alvin Kamara is going to do with the full lead role in New Orleans. That's what I'm looking for, and how Barkley is going to do in New York. I think that's going to be good, but I think the main thing is can Pat Mahomes continue this meteoric rise that he's has and being the best quarterback in the league? Can he continue that, and the Chiefs be can somebody knock off the Patriots? Is it going to be the year? Because it's like the Patriots can go 2-4 their first 6 games, and people will be writing them off, and we'll just be like, yeah, just wait to get into the playoffs, and it's just everything changes. So I think probably the biggest thing is who can knock off the Patriots, because nobody has on a consistent basis. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Paulie, what about you?
I don't know if there's any move in particular that I'm most excited about. Joey mentioned the Browns, Odell going there from my Giants. That's interesting. Just that whole team. The Chiefs are obviously going to be interesting, and not really any moves that they acquired, but I guess Tyreek Hill not getting suspended was almost like acquiring something. And then the Raiders, they got Brown. They drafted this running back Jacobs that everyone's very high on. Just Gruden's second year there, they could be pretty interesting. there's a lot, but there's none like in particular I'm really excited about. I'm just overall excited about just seeing how the NFL, unfolds. The two holdouts you mentioned, Melvin Gordon and then now Zeke, like, I think that's bad for the sport. Guys holding out, not being there, but that could change the dynamic of some of those divisions if those players aren't available, like it did for the Steelers last year.
Do you think the NFL like this? If players continue to hold out and do things like Le'Veon Bell did, and continue to be glorified by the other players, right? Like Zeke and Gordon are obviously holding their ground because they're like they don't want me to do what Le'Veon Bell did. Like obviously the penalties could be even different, but still, like it kind of gave leverage to some of these guys. And like if Bell turned around, like we talked about it before the show, Bell's not going to turn around and say, "Oh man, I got screwed. I didn't get any more money. I just got guaranteed money." And maybe that's probably he says that's what he was after, and I believe him. But if that's the case, then it seems like the players are looking at it like he won, while the fans are saying, "Oh, he lost." The players must think he won because that the guaranteed money probably means more to them, and for good reason. I understand that. But like you mentioned, how it's going to be bad for. Do you think can you see this ultimately like somewhat leading to like what's going on in the NBA, where players are basically choosing their own like building their own teams and kind of. I know it's a little bit different, but they are kind of in a sense like in a different way. They're grabbing like a stranglehold on these owners and the league in general, and kind of like I want my way. I know I have a contract, but I want my way. Like, do you you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the NBA, I think it's way more pronounced because of there's so many less players and everyone's getting crazy money. Like, guys that are like not even very good, journeyman centers are getting like 16 million a year, where like, there's only a few people in the NFL getting that much a season. So like the money's so much bigger in the NBA and with less players on a team. But, I think the NFL will try to fight it a little bit more. I think the NBA kind of likes what's going on and that it's drawing attention to them. The NFL is a little more conservative, I guess I would say, and then they're not going to want that kind of image and will probably resist it a little more. But it certainly could. Ultimately, the good players are what fans come out to see, I think, and they do hold a bit more power than other players.
I think you're 100% right about that. How many times do you see a team that can't draw for shit, but when LeBron James comes around, it's a packed house, it's sold out. Like they won't see their own team play, but they'll come see LeBron when he's in town. So I think you're right about that. It works in a variety of ways. Joe, what are your thoughts on the holdouts, man? Like you're I know this is not to I don't know if the connection is that obvious, but to me, I feel like you as a referee, like. You are a referee, you know what I'm saying? So like you're kind of involved in like I know you ref college sports at times, a lot of high school, like you're there, like you're in the grind during football season. So just from your perspective, kind of on the outside, I'm just here to fucking call the game. But like when you look at these situations, like you're like being a regular guy also, like they have a contract, right? I know it's not necessarily you can say, oh, the owners are making a shit ton of money off these guys. It's not fair, but like they have a contract, life-changing money. What are your thoughts?
My thing is that, like, I think the most pressure is on Le'Veon Bell this year. If he does good and excels, that's going to put so much more like, okay, I'll sit out a year. Look what Le'Veon Bell did. But if he busts
or gets hurt
and he took a year off, to be like, oh, look, he took a year off. He's not the same.
That's a good
Boom.
point.
Don't go right ahead. You're not going to get his amount of money. So, because he didn't get as much money as he could have gotten. So, I think that this is such a tough case because we talked about it before the show. Le'Veon Bell lost a lot of his leverage when James Conner went in and just tore it up and proved that Pittsburgh's system is good. It's not just him. So, around him in New York, he's got a lot of pressure on him. Darnold is good. So I agree, but he's got to get a little bit more production. The O-line has got to be better. And Darnold's going to have to play better to open things up for Bell too. So there's a lot of pressure on him. If he does well, that could open up a trend of running backs sitting out a year. But if Bell doesn't do well, I think it might bite everyone in the ass. It's something that the running backs are going to have to bring up in the next collective bargaining agreement, something to that effect where they get more guaranteed money or something to that, because it's tough for them. They really have a small shelf life. And they're pretty much done at 30. So they have one contract to get all their money. Their rookie contract is now they can only get so much. So it's tough. So they're hamstrung in some ways. I feel it from the player's perspective, but in the same aspect, like if you want them, pay them more guaranteed money, and they'll come.
Yeah, I think that does make a lot of sense. Joe, I know before the show, I'm going to change the topic a little. We'll still talk about football, but a little bit. You were talking about Kyler Murray. He's a lot of hype around them. We talked about some of these like off-season things. A lot of hype with Kyler Murray. The new coach for the Cardinals, Cliff. I don't know another name that is Kingsbury. Yeah. I know you were saying that you kind of thought that they're being overhyped, overrated, whatever the case may be. Elaborate that a little bit for me.
I mean, it's kind of like I look at it from a fantasy point of view, you know. So it's not like I'm looking at it to where I think he's going to come in and help the Cardinals and how it's going to help. I look at, you know, fantasy wise, how's it going to help us? But looking at it for a football standpoint, you know, you got a team. He's a rookie. He's coming in. He's in a new offense called the air raid that the offense didn't work in college, or he would still be at Texas Tech, his alma mater. Okay, guys, like Kingsbury would still be there if the offense worked.
He had
work in
college, man. This dude had
exactly.
Mahomes.
Yeah, and Mahomes put up some great games, and like it's a good offense, but it's going to be slowed down in the NFL. They want to run a lot of plays, and in fantasy that means more plays, more opportunity, more points. However, I just think that a lot of Kyler Murray's production came off of broken plays and him using his legs. And if he's going to have to prove it to me, I don't feel like his talent right now matches like where he's being drafted. Like I brought up names right now on the position where he's going average draft position in a 12-team PPR league. He's going as the 9th quarterback pick. Quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Goff, Winston, Rivers, Ben, and Brady are all behind him. I would take all those quarterbacks any day of the week over Murray and not even hesitate about it, because you have no idea what you're going to get in Murray. And here's another thing. If Murray's going to do so good, then that means that everybody else's darling, who everybody thinks is going to bounce back, David Johnson, is going to cut into his production. So you can't have it both ways in fantasy. I don't see how it's both going to work out. And I would rather lean more on David Johnson rebounding more than a rookie in going up against really good offenses, really good defenses in the NFC. Not seeing it. You have to buy me on that one, I think.
So it sounds to me like there's almost, you didn't mention this, but in my head, the situation you described kind of reminds me of Chip Kelly. Paulie, do you think this is like a Chip Kelly situation where a college coach is going to try to run his high-powered, fast offense and it's just going to backfire because the NFL is just a different beast? Or do you have a little more faith in this dude?
I do believe in that offensive system more for college. You know, we'll see how it does in the NFL. But, you know, the Chiefs kind of ran a similar version of it. You know, a lot of shotgun, a lot of spread, and it could work in this day and age's NFL, you know, like where we're throwing the ball to the running backs more, we're throwing to tight ends, we're throwing short routes to receivers, you know, quick drops. Like it could work if executed well. Like, you know, I think when you say Chip Kelly, you're like insinuating a failure since, you know, he's no longer with us. And I don't know. Like, I think the offense could do well if you have the right personnel and everyone buys in. So I don't know. Like, we'll see. And I don't know. I think people are looking at Kyler Murray as if he's the next Pat Mahomes, and that's why people are so high on him. And, you know, I kind of was late on Pat Mahomes, and like, I don't want to be late on another similar thing, but I'm not as like convinced that this kid has that ability just yet, but we'll see. You know, we get 4 weeks of preseason to make some of those decisions, but it's hard to really say anything until we see him perform a little bit.
Let me ask you guys this. Joe, you first. I think I know your answer, but I'm going to ask both of you. Vegas right now on DraftKings Sportsbook has the Cardinals win total at 5. 5 wins for the season. Over, under. Joe, you first.
I wanted to bring up their schedule really quick, but I would probably say over.
Over 5?
Yeah, me too.
5 does feel a little bit low, but it kind of shows you Vegas. We talk about how they seem like they're getting overhyped. Vegas ain't buying that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not buying that shit. They're like 5.
Well, okay, let's look at their schedule really quick, okay? Let's see if we can find more than 5 wins, all right? All right, they open up against the Lions. They can win that game.
Yeah.
All right? Then they go to Baltimore. They lose that game. They have Carolina and Seattle, 2 games at home. I don't know if they win either of those games. I think they could win one of those games, but not. And then they go to Cincinnati. Maybe they win that. They have the Falcons at home. They lose that game. At the Giants, they could win that game. They're going to lose to the Saints. They'll lose to the Niners twice. They'll lose to the Buccaneers. They'll lose to the Rams, Steelers. Yeah, it gets tough, I think, as the season goes on. They better win in the beginning of the year because I think as the year goes on, you have the Rams twice, Steelers, and Browns. Apparently, the Browns is the next best thing since sliced bread. We're supposed to believe that. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's the last game against?
At the Rams.
So the Rams may be, calling it quits already that week, and that could be a win for that team.
We'll see. The Rams, I think, are in for a little bit of a rude awakening this year. So I'm not buying that they're going to. I think they might be a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover.
Interesting.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Curious to see. Anybody want to guess what the New York Giants win total is?
4?
It's actually 5.5. They have higher than the Arizona Cardinals. And the over is juice, bro. The over is minus 132. It's juice.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Cowboys, the Redskins, and the Eagles twice. Maybe the Eagles are good, but this isn't Homer. But the Giants could win that division.
Because of how bad.
I don't think any of those.
Because of how bad it is. I'm with you. I agree. I don't think the good news is competitive. The bad news is competitive in It's kind of like the NL East in baseball, right? It's
very similar.
Any team could win that shit because you don't know. They're all inconsistent as hell. They all choke, disappoint, whatever you say. It's very similar.
I mean, have you looked at any of the week 1 matchups, just the games, let alone I know DraftKings was literally sitting at the edge of their bed with their jerking off. Oh my God, we got to get the prices. Yeah. We got to get the prices out. Oh my God, what do we do if we're talking pro football? July. Oh my God. Oh my God. The prices are out. Paulie D.
He just says Paulie D's name. He just that's what DraftKings does. DraftKings jizzes and then they say Paulie D.
I just threw my hat to center field. Oh my God, Paulie D, the prices are out. And Kyler Murray's 5,600. Oh my God, he's gonna be so chalk.
Oh God. I guess that was a perfect transition into the DraftKings Week 1 salaries. Paulie, what are some of the ones that stand out to you, bro?
Well, first off, I agree with Joe's frustration. It's too early. Things are going to happen that are going to create massive chalk for week 1. But in DraftKings defense, we're talking about it. Everyone else is talking about it. That's what they were trying to get. And, it's only 1 week of the season. So I don't know. But I didn't really look. I haven't really looked. I saw one screenshot on the internet of the Kyler Murray, actually. And I haven't really seen any other pricing, so I got to pull that up. If you have it up, read some significant ones to me.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. But back to your point, both of you. It is kind of wild. I mean, I understand there's hype with NFL. At WiseTake, we put out our NFL package, the Early Owl Special. We're excited about NFL. We can't wait. Preseason's here. But to launch week 1 at this point, when there's 2 players that are potentially holding out, and the holdout, Le'Veon Bell, if it taught you anything, at least for this year, it taught you that you have to take those holdouts a little more serious. I don't think anybody ever took those things seriously when a player held out, right? Le'Veon Bell was still going first, second, and third in every fantasy football draft across the country, and those guys all got burned. And I feel terrible for that. Let me ask you this: as we transition into the DraftKings prices, as I pull them up, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna put you guys on the spot real quick. Joe, you first. You have the number one pick in your fantasy draft. Who's your pick?
Holdouts or not, that's big right now. Okay, can we assume that everybody's in camp?
Assume everybody's here.
You're drafting. Oh, bro.
Yeah, that's it. You're on the clock, Joe. We don't have time to answer these questions. You're literally on the clock right now.
I'm taking Zeke. I'm taking Zeke. Zeke's my number one pick.
Okay. Paulie, what about you?
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey is who I would take.
Interesting. See, no, but here's my point. I feel like last year, year before, even year before that, it was kind of automatic. Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, right? It's very different. Like last year, especially after last year, it kind of shook shit up. It's very different this year. I think if you ask like 10 people, you're gonna get a bunch of different. I think a third person. If we had a third person aside from me on the show, somebody probably would have said Saquon. Because all the receivers are hurt, and he's a freak. You don't need an excuse to play him, you know. But like in general, I think that's interesting. It's more spread out. I think the fantasy leagues, if you took like a poll of who was the number one overall pick in all these drafts, I think it might be a little different. I do think Zeke will still be like one of the more popular ones. But like in the past, DJ and Bell were like 80-90% of all drafts. They were the first two guys gone. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Here's my thing. Like to me, it's not so much who's the number 1 through 4 running backs, because Kamara could be picked number 1 too. It's who's the number 5 running back? Who do you think's the number 5 fantasy running back right now? That you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah,
I guarantee. It's not the top 4. Everybody knows who the top 4 is, beyond a doubt. Who's number 5? Who would you say, CK? Who would be the number 5, the next running back after those 4?
It's tough, man, because I don't even have my 3 and 4. Like honestly, like I love James Conner. I'm really, really high on James Conner going into this year. But like I might like him more than just number 5. You know what I'm saying? Just assuming he gets the same workload, just because of how good that system is. So like, if everybody was so big on Le'Veon Bell, we saw James Conner did some pretty damn Le'Veon Bell like things last year. I'm not saying he is Le'Veon Bell, but the numbers were pretty damn good. All of us as DraftKings FanDuel players, daily fantasy sports players, we did very well with James Conner last year. So it's like I'm looking at him and I'm like,
and they lost Brown,
right,
so like there's
Brown.
a lot more touches to go around.
Absolutely, a lot more touches to go around. But here's the thing: do you take him early because in the back of your mind you might be able to get him a little bit later? You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, he's probably going to first round, right?
Yeah, he's going.
But like,
Paulie, who would you pick?
Probably Connor. If not him, Joe Mixon.
Yeah, Mixon's.
Yeah, I'm off on Mixon. The offensive line problems for the Bengals are just terrible. I'm not touching Mixon this year just because of his O-line.
Yeah,
that's big me. Right? Yeah. For me, it would be either Connor, David Johnson, or Nick Chubb. I'm high on Nick Chubb this year more than a lot of people, just because if you take what he was doing the last 10 weeks of the season, the only person better than him was Zeke.
Yeah, but now you got more mouths to feed there, and you got Kareem coming. But
after week 10, I'll worry about that week 10. You know what I'm saying? Like
OBJ, the offense is going to be throwing the ball. Like I'm with you. Like he's up there, but there's question marks with him too.
Mm-hmm. And I think everybody else behind them, like to me, Connor is good, but I couldn't put Connor ahead of the top 4. There's no way. He's just not. Kamara, McCaffrey, Zeke, and Barkley, they're just in another class. And then it starts after that.
Yep. And if Melvin Gordon doesn't hold out, he's probably in that 5 conversation as well. And then my sleeper that I'm in love with, that I'm going to have in the top 10 that most people won't, is Marlon Mack. I'm crazy high on him this year. I think that's going to be an explosive offense. He kind of became the lead guy towards the end of the season, where he was in a share and they were protecting him from injury. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to have a really big season and exceed his draft position right now.
Bro, think about
Think
about how hard it is to really make a top 5 and to say it now on the spot without thinking about it. Sure, you can come up with something, but I guarantee you'll be questioning that shit later tonight if you give a top 5 right now. There's just so many guys. Like Joe, right now, if I said, give me your top 5 running backs right now.
Very easily. Zeke, Barkley, Kamara, McCaffrey, and James Conner.
Okay, Paulie, what about you?
McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke, the Saints dude, and Connor.
I would if I. But like my point is, like by the end of the night, you could probably go back in your head and say Le'Veon Bell's not in my top 5. This is a player I know we don't know what to expect yet, but if he does go back to being Le'Veon Bell, is everybody not going to be like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how did I not like have that guy up there? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's insane. Like you can question that shit all night. That's that shit. You're like taking a shit, and like your 30-minute shit turns into a 2-hour shit because you're just pondering and googling shit on who. You know what I'm saying? Like
number 5, though. It's number 5, CK.
Number 5.
That's all we're worried about.
No, of course. Of course.
The top 4 you just can't argue. Number 5 is like the only bit of like conversation we can have. Like that could be one of like 5 guys. Yeah, and like Melvin Gordon. The guys that I think that might rebound this year that we got to look at, especially in DFS, like and in seasonal, is Devonta Freeman and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, like he's talented if he stays healthy. He just never does. Similar to Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. Another one, Leonard fucking Fournette. Yeah. That guy's a beast too. It's just so much, man. Let's get over to the. Let's talk about some of this DraftKings pricing. I got it pulled up. They only have a $3 contest up, but like Joe said, they were willing to do anything. They were willing to suck some dick if they had to make sure that they had this pricing up before FanDuel and they had it up nice and early and they get it started filling out. This contest has 792,707. That's right, 7,900. I'm not going to repeat that. I'll fuck it up if I do it again. But yeah, massive contest. So just kind of looking at, I guess we can just briefly look at this. Paulie, do you have it pulled up?
Yeah.
It looks like Zeke, Barkley, McCaffrey, and Odell Beckham are the 4 most expensive players. Do you agree with that order?
Sounds good to me. I think I would put Julio ahead of Odell. A lot of guys ahead of Odell. I don't think he's proven to be like the top guy, but otherwise, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I don't have anybody. Yeah,
bro. How is Odell like? Listen, Odell Beckham is phenomenal, but how is Odell Beckham 8-1? Hasn't played it down for that team, and Jarvis Landry, who was last year's number 1 receiver, is 5'6", 5,600. Because motherfuckers just don't like him, right? That's the only explanation, right?
And because he's number 2, like he's not as good, so his volume's gonna drop.
Yeah. Well, we're assuming that, we assume his volume is gonna drop, but if the efficiency goes up, I think there's a world where and then they're playing like a team like Tennessee. So assuming that they throw their best defensive secondary scheme to shut down Odell Beckham, I don't know. I just feel like they kind of. I would have liked to have seen them, at least in week 1, be a little closer together. I want to see Odell more expensive. I agree with that. But I think the bridge should have been a little more narrow until we actually see it. Right? Landry at least had a year with Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What are some of the other...
So the first thing I noticed was Tampa Bay, right? That's a team that got passed all over, right? So it's like San Francisco. Who's their receivers? And I isolate it. There's not a receiver over 3K on the San Francisco 49ers.
No shit. Oh my gosh.
No. Hold on. I'm looking at Tampa.
Oh, okay.
Pettis is 5'4", and then Goodwin is 4K. I know that there's no one there, but that was something we picked on all year last year, and maybe it's Kerry Kittle at tight end that we end up playing, but that was a good matchup last season. That
Shout out to Cam Kittle. Yeah, it's one of those things like Joe does. Cam never actually said that. I think he wrote that out. And for some reason, I just picture Cam saying it like that. Kidda. I don't know why. It's like what Joe did with the AOs and Paulie. And now it's like a thing. Now we all do it. And but Paulie never actually said that before. I love it. But that's an interesting point about San Francisco in terms of value. Aside from Kittle, that could be a situation we could certainly look into. Looking at some of the quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes 7-2, all right, against Jacksonville. In Jacksonville.
Yeah, good D.
Just a week 1 bomb. Just bam. There you go. Everybody's dying to play Mahomes. You want to play Mahomes? Play him against these guys on the road.
I think he went for like 5 touchdowns against Jacksonville last year, like almost positive. So I would still play him. He was the best player in fantasy last year. Like I'll be playing a lot of him.
No, man,
all season.
I'm with it. He had a 20 against them when he was at home. 20 DraftKings points. 20.82. Did he play him? No, that was
only once. They're not in the same.
That was it. This time he'll be in Jacksonville. Interesting. To see what do you? I know it's early, but like, what do you guys think his ownership will be? Like last year, it was never as high as I thought it was going to be. Because the bottom line is he was more expensive, and people were comfortable punting or going down at quarterback. So I would always go into it thinking like Mahomes is going to be like mega chalk, and like he would be owned. He would be somewhat chalky, but it was never as high as I thought he would be. And now, again, 7-2 is not a terrible price for a guy like him with this kind of upside, but it is Jacksonville on the road. What do you guys think his ownership will be?
It depends on the running back value. Like if Melvin Gordon holds out, if Zeke holds out, like another big injury happens and we have these min-price guys, then he'll be extremely popular.
Yeah, that's a good point. Your boy Marlon back, 5'6", Paulie. Disrespect on your boy.
Against the Chargers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that game, week 1, Indy at the Chargers is probably the most underrated game of the whole week. You have 2 teams that are Super Bowl contenders playing week 1, and nobody will really be talking about that game at all. Everybody's going for the big teams.
I do wish the game was in Indianapolis, though. Put them in that dome.
Oh, yeah.
Let them go. You know what I mean? Put them in that dome. Let them go.
I think the Atlanta-Minnesota game is going to be like the highest total, like kind of get chalky. All those receivers on the turf, good quarterbacks. Like I think that's going to end up being like the highest total game on this slate.
There's actually a lot of interesting prices. Gurley's 7-9. I know, we got to see what role he's in. David Johnson is 7-7. Leonard Fournette against Kansas City is 6-1. Dalvin Cook only 6K against Atlanta. There are some guys you could roll the dice with. They might not be as secure, obviously. It could be Coleman, right? He's got a new role. It's only like 5K against Tampa Bay.
Tampa. Yeah.
Interesting.
The guy who opened up today was Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah.
Or it was yesterday because they cut Theo Riddick.
Right.
Yep.
So there's basically more opportunities for Kerryon Johnson. So I like him too at 5,800. And then if like Paulie said, if Gordon held out, Eckler at 5.5 is going to be popular, and then I'm sure Josh Jackson is way less than that. You know what I mean? Like he's probably like, he's 4K. So if we saw what he could do in a little limited time last year, so I would imagine if Gordon held out that the split would be kind of the same.
Right. I gotta ask you guys, right now in our live chat, our boy Pittsburgh Brew is just going apeshit right now, because neither of us mentioned Gurley near the top of the list. So I'm gonna ask you for our boy Brew here, where do you rank? Like if you had to put a number, if he's not in your top 5, is he in your top 10? Like where's Gurley on your list?
I am probably slotting him maybe 8th, I'd say 8th or 9th, depending on where Melvin Gordon is and where like Joe Mixon, like kind of like he's kind of right around that area with Le'Veon Bell, because I like the top 4 more than him. I like Chubb more than him. I like Connor more than him. I like David Johnson more than him. Now we can start, you know what I mean? Like around 8. Now we can start where I think Gurley is. Yeah. If I knew his knee was fine, cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't think his knee is 100%. They say he has arthritis in his knee. So I think it's something that maybe in the beginning you're going to get some really good games out of, and then everybody's going to think everything's great, and then as the year goes on, that knee's just going to get weaker and weaker. That's just my prediction. Paulie?
I think Paulie fell off for a second there.
Oh, where would you put him? I mean, I see the upside, but I just don't. I see more. I see safer. More. I don't know. Healthier, at least at the time, running backs.
Yeah, no. I agree with you, and like you said, we do have to see the status of him, see how healthy he actually is, and everything going into it. A little worried about the workload. Last year, they really did take his work. Like C.J. Anderson got a lot of work last year when he got there. Granted, that was most likely for injury management type purposes, things like that. But I am curious to see how he fits in. But more importantly, I'm curious to know what the rest of the world thinks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know, like, are people going to undervalue him? Like, I don't think anybody's going to overvalue him. There's just too many good running backs to really consider to overvalue. But are people really going to undervalue him? Because he was a workhorse last year, and that's what it comes down to. Is he going to be a workhorse again? Because if he's not a workhorse, like everything that we're getting in Todd Gurley, it's the opportunities we're taking, right? That's what it is. That's what separates guys like Zeke. You know where the usage is going. You know he's getting reps. You know he's getting used. Like that's. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, CJ Anderson's not with the Rams anymore, so it's just
of course.
The way I look at it is like his price is 7.9 on DK. Like, I just don't want to pay that on the road in Carolina. If we're like breaking it down, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to pay for a little bit safer option. David Johnson at home at 7.7. I would prefer week 1 over Gurley. Right. It's the fact of his knee that's scaring people off. It's if I knew his knee was going to be fine, then yeah, he's right up there with those 4. You know what I'm saying? Right. But he's not. I don't think the knee is there anymore.
Paulie's back dropping 7s on him. Talk to me about Gurley, Paulie.
Oh, Todd Gurley.
Where would
that's
you
a really interesting one. I probably just don't he's going to go in the first 10. And like, if I'm inside of there, I'm just probably not picking him. Like, I just like everyone that's going to go ahead and before, like, that just doesn't sound like a good situation to me. Like, it seems like he's more injured than, they want to reveal. And like, he's going to go into this like load management kind of like situation during the season. And like, that's not good, and there's other mouths to feed there. So, like, I'm just completely off of him. Like, I could see that coming back to haunt you, but, like, he had a little touchdown regression probably coming his way. Like, last year, like, he didn't even have that many big running or receiving totals outside of, like, 1 or 2 games, but he always found the end zone. And, like, if that turned around, then his value kind of depreciated a lot. So, like, I just am not big on Gurley at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to... Definitely have to see. Interesting. It sounds like if we're down on Gurley, then we're probably going to be a little more down on the Rams because he's such a huge part of their offense in general. I know, Joe, you already said that you're kind of down on the Rams this year, but interesting to see, how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely see how it's going to be. So it's going to be tough. We'll have to see, like, because you're not going to see anything in the preseason,
right?
No.
Right. Yep, we're going to have no idea.
Nothing really.
All right, guys. I think for the first ever episode of the WiseTake Nation podcast, I thought it went pretty good. Obviously, I talked to you guys a bunch, so nothing special there. But this was fun, man. It was fun. Like, don't get me wrong. I am going to continue. We're obviously going to still talk about DFS all the time. It's what we do. And if you're interested in daily fantasy sports, go check us out at wisetake.com. We can help you, teach you how to play. We can teach you how to Dougie, teach you how to play, teach you how to do a bunch of things. But you got to go to wisetake.com and check it out. If you do play FanDuel or DraftKings, give us a visit. We have a free trial going on over there, so go check it out. NFL's full season package also just dropped. Maybe, as the season comes, we'll get into some sports betting conversation. We'll still talk some DFS once in a while on this show. For those of you that were listening and kind of waiting for the full DFS content, we will be putting out shorter segmented videos for daily fantasy sports. We're going to be putting out some, shorter videos. So we're still going to put out DFS stuff on the channel. But this is something we're doing a little bit different because, the WiseTake Nation. We gotta do it for the nation. Everything we do for the WiseTake Nation. So, you know, it is what it is. So appreciate y'all joining me. Paulie, anything in closing from you before we get up out of here?
No, this was fun though. I like talking just sports instead of like always just DFS sports, and like this will lead down a lot of DFS and just sport related questions, gambling, and it'll be a lot of fun. So check us out next.
Dropping sevens. Joey, anything in closing?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Like Paulie said, talking sports in general a little bit more. You'll get to see our mindset and what we think about players and our personal opinions on them, besides just if they're a good price on it today.
Boom. Dropping sevens as we always do. If you guys don't know some of the lingo we use, dropping sevens and, you know, some of the stuff we say, you just missed out. We're not going to explain it to you now. You should have been there from the beginning. You should have found us sooner. I mean, deal with it. Figure it out. Go ask your neighbor. And then do the dirty to him. For Paulie D, for Patio Joe, and myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Peace.